Hey, you guys still there?
Yes, but we
Hey, everybody. I like that intro music. You like that intro music, Chef? Well, why don't you unmute yourself and try that again?
I said that was really, really cool. I really liked it. How you
Yeah,
doing,
yeah.
Dan?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I just, it's 11 o'clock at night here in sunny Japan. Well, sort of sunny today, but I'm feeling all fired up, and the reason why is because this is the first episode of The Mainstream. And so this podcast is going to be something special. This podcast is going to be basically focusing on what it says, the mainstream, mass adoption, and what it looks like. What do real world assets look like, mass adopted on chain? Real world asset tokenization looks like in mass adoption. what it means for the blockchain industry, what it means for the industries that are they're actually adopting the technology. And so, in contrast from a lot of more blockchain related, I guess, blockchain centric podcasts out there, what we really wanted to focus on with this podcast is to have a place for the industry to connect with, as it says up there, with the mainstream. We're not really just going to be talking about blockchain with blockchain people, but we're actually going to be inviting guests from mainstream industries, like, for example, the commodities industry, or the tea industry, maybe from the aircraft part manufacturing industries. Just all these different places where real world asset tokenization can play a huge role in making the industries better, but really giving us a perspective on what it looks to them, right? What it looks like to them to utilize these technologies, because obviously these technologies are needed, but they're not there yet, and they haven't been utilized yet. And part of it is because mainstream industries have this lack of trust for blockchain and on-chain technologies. Part of it is because every time they look at blockchain, they think of crypto. And while that, the two are very intimately connected, one is not really, it's not really one of those things that if you have one, you have the other one. Yeah, so it's going to be a great show. I'm really excited. And Chef, I think you look pretty excited right now too, right? You had like what, 4 hours of sleep?
Yeah, I had about 4 hours of sleep, but I'm very excited about this because not only we're going to be talking about, Web3 mainstream and how these two worlds can blend together. The other very cool thing that I'm very excited about is because we're going to start having this communication with the community, like right there every week for 1 hour. We're gonna be here talking to the community, giving out information, talking about different things and different topics that we don't really hear about, right? Especially when you talk about commodity supply chains and all those different industries that blockchain technology could be utilized. There is so many different industries, so many different applications that we can see blockchain technology to be implemented, that I don't think we're scratching the surface right now. So this is one of the main reasons that I'm super excited about this new initiative that we started. First episode today, and what this is really going to be about today is about doing an intro. Getting ourselves out there, telling you and our audience who we are and what we do, and in the end of the day, why you should be listening to us. So I think it's quite important to have this first episode. You'll get to know about us. We're going to talk about Zengate and about Palmyra, how all of this came together, that crazy idea that Daniel Friedman had, and Sam Lampert found him and said, yeah, that sounds like a super crazy idea, but let's go and do this. And now we've 2 years later we're here. So I'm super excited to start this off, Dan, by your intro, if you will. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and how did the Zengate vision came.
Sure. So for those of you who don't know me, you should probably re-examine your life because I'm that important. I'm just kidding around. So the name is Dan Friedman. I have been in IT pretty much my entire life. I was a developer for a long time. And And yeah, about probably 20 plus years I was a developer. Um, since the 90s. I started in the 90s, and I was always fascinated with new technology. I was always a futurist. In fact, when I was a kid, my favorite books were science fiction, and reading Arthur C. Clarke, Stanislav Lem. Um, it just Isaac Asimov. Um, Ray Bradbury. I was always thinking about back. I remember back in the '80s, right, when I was a kid, and reading these books and thinking about these things in the future. I was always thinking, we always thought about the year 2000. The year 2000 is the future. Of course, because it was like a decade and a half, maybe 2 decades away when we were talking about it. Because I remember I was talking to somebody, and this kind of stuck in my head because I remember the number. I was talking about the year 2000 and the future and when it's going to come, right? Because everybody was like, the year 2000, that's the future. And so I remember saying, yeah, we got to wait 14 more years for the year 2000. So that puts it at that conversation in 1986. And so that's why I was always in IT, and I kind of wanted to do more. I wanted to be in not just a developer, but I kind of wanted to do more of do more research type of jobs, because I wanted to be on the frontier of these technologies, and just technologies in general. But being a developer was the more logical way of building a career, at least at that point. And so I moved to Japan. I mean, I'm not going to go into that whole thing because I moved countries like people change their shoes. I'm born in the Ukraine, or in Ukraine. I immigrated with my parents to the United States. Then I moved to Japan about 11 years ago. So this behind me is Japan, even though you got that American flag behind me. It is Japan, trust me. Yeah, I was still doing IT, and I was just kind of looking for, something to inspire me, because I was always kind of thinking about what, like, okay, and now what? What's it going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Because I was never content with just you work for 40 years or whatever, you get your 401k, you got enough money to retire, and you just retire, and that's it, and that's what you do. And for some people, that's fine, and I'm not knocking that lifestyle, but for me, it just wasn't satisfying. I wanted to do something big. And so when I met Charles, this was back in 2016. I was working in another company. I was actually a CTO of a company in Osaka, Japan, and we were building applications, and we were working with augmented reality, which was also a pretty interesting field back then, and is now as well, but especially back then because it was still up and coming. We're all waiting for that killer app, which then became Pokemon Go, and that was the end of it. And yeah, no, it's just that was the thing.
Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny that it just came in?
With all these technologies, right? With all these technologies, you always look for the killer DApp or killer app, killer DApp, and we'd be talking about that with blockchain tech for a while. What is our killer DApp, right? What is it? And augmented reality was kind of in the same position. It was around. I remember it was back in this. I forgot what the tech show was called in Los Angeles, but I was at the tech show in Los Angeles probably in 2009 or something like that. And I was actually already a CTO of a different company that was manufacturing tablets, Android tablets. And I remember seeing augmented reality for the first time. Like, wow, this is really cool, but what do you do with it? And then later, whatever it was, 6-7 years later, we're still thinking about, okay, what do you do with it? And we're trying to figure things out to do with it. And so everybody was talking about, we need the killer DApp. We need the killer DApp. and then the killer dab became Pokemon Go. Just like,
Yeah.
and then nothing, unfortunately. Yeah. So getting back to what I was saying about my journey to blockchain. When I met Charles, at first I just didn't get it. I was like, okay, so it's open source. Well, first of all, I didn't really, because I worked in a corporate environment for a long time. In a corporate, you don't really do open source too much. You just well, why? It's intellectual property. You spend all this money building it. And this is, of course, this is also going back like 10, 15 years. So the thinking changed a lot in the past 10 to 15 years. So now, I mean, the big companies are doing open source, but back then, yeah, you just like, okay, open source. Why would you do it open source? I mean, you're basically just giving somebody stuff that you paid money to build. Why don't they pay money to build? Let them pay their money. And so that was the first thing I didn't really get. And it took me a little while to get it. Like, okay, why open source? I mean, obviously, it's because you're building an ecosystem. And so if you're going to make everybody pay for everything throughout the entire thing, it's not going to build the ecosystem. So, yeah, you need open source. You need people to work with something. You need to have a library, an arsenal for builders. And blockchain tech, I'm like, okay, so what's the big deal? Well, what is the deal? These guys are really excited about crypto. And this is what, 2015, 2016. They're excited about crypto. Of course, I was in Bitcoin already back then. I didn't own any back in 2014, but I knew all about it because I had friends that were into it. I just still never got it. And then when I spoke to Charles, and he kind of, it was like this phone call that really kind of changed my perception of this, because he was very passionate about what he was, what the mission was. He had it. It was really clear. It was really vivid. And we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and the blockchain tech can do this and that, and and it could provide financial services to the underfinanced, and it can provide digital identities, and we can help traceability, and we can help all these different things. And I just kind of started to think, there's something to it. There's something to it. And that's what really kind of, and it wasn't an instant thing. I didn't instantly fall in love with blockchain. I just did not. It took me a year. I'll be honest with you. It took me a solid year of working at IOG to really fall in love with what I was doing. Because for a while I was just like, I mean, okay, I get it, but I don't really get the hype, right? But then as I indulged into it, it just really started to make sense. And that mission is what drove me. That mission is what really kind of made me like, yeah, I get it. And this could actually be, now I feel like I'm on the forefront of something. Now I feel like I'm building something that matters.
There's actually, Dan, there's actually a lot of people, to your point exactly. And the reason that I say this is I put myself first into that group of people that back in 2017, 2016 actually, when the conversation around Cardano and Bank the Unbanked and all those things that are starting coming out, there were a lot of people, myself included, that were like, let's fucking do it, like it was like, let's go. And so to that point, I wanted to ask you, what was the feeling back then and what's the feeling now? Because back then you could say, oh, not too many people know about it, or the tech is not there yet, so we can talk in theory and whatnot. Right now, I don't think there's any theory to be talked about anymore. The tech is here.
Yeah, back then, well, even though we were still kind of early back then, 2016, 2017, even 2018, I would say we're still early for a lot of these solutions. Because they weren't adopted by the mainstream. Like, for example, I remember reading about colored tokens, which then basically are NFTs, back in 2017, because Charles asked me to read about them. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool, interesting. Okay, so these are non-fungible? Okay. I guess it makes sense. You can use that for something, maybe. Yeah, or the concept of Havala so this is actually was something that was done by a project called Interledger back in the 2016 2017 period where you wouldn't have it. It would be a Hubble bridge like Rosen is actually, and so you would have the protocol would then match liquidity providers and holders, right? So basically, like I want to trade you ETH for Bitcoin, right? I have ETH, you have Bitcoin. Well, it just matches the amounts and logs them up, but there is no contract connecting them, right? So there is no contract to hack. And so like these, the providers, the holders, liquidity providers for those in between the different chains would be essentially how, in a way, Rosen works. Because the wrapped assets that come on chain are there is no smart contract. All the security stays on Ergo, right? It stays in one place. That was sort of how Interledger worked in a way. And so, yeah, I remember that period, and it was a period of excitement because you knew the possibilities. You know that you're kind of early, but you know that, okay, yeah, but I'm early, but I can do something about it. And then more and more these opportunities would come to you, right? Like, say, for example, if you guys look at back there, that pair of pink sneakers over there.
Talk about that. Tell us, tell everyone the story, because there's actually
yeah.
was just to give a little bit of a context. There was
my room. So this is my room. This is my office at home. And I really have a particular taste in things, right? I like retro stuff. And I kind of like to have things in my office that have meaning to me, right? I don't just like put things just because, I don't know, like I had an interior decorator come in and say, put those sneakers there, right? So that's a pair of, so are we saying it right? Kawhi Leonard?
Oh man, who?
Yeah,
we were in the call with Farid, right? It was Farid.
Yeah. We were in a call with Farid from Dapp Central, and neither of us were able to say Kawhi Leonard. I was saying Kohi Leonard.
I was saying something different with my Greek accent.
Was saying something else because I'm not a basketball guy, and I didn't actually follow him, and the only time I saw his name is when I read it, and I never heard anybody say it. So,
especially Japan.
Yeah, so to me it was Kohi Leonard, but it's actually Kawhi Leonard, right? So those are a pair of limited edition Kawhi Leonard New Balance sneakers, luxury sneakers.
Talk about that deal that you did,
so
yeah.
So the reason I have those is, and they potentially could be the first. I just haven't verified it yet, but at the very least, these are one of the first sneakers made from a large company that were well, I guess you could say tokenized. They were they were put on chain, and so essentially what happened was, so these basically have a record on chain with a proof of authenticity and an RFID chip in them that verifies that these are the real deal, right? So that this is an authentication solution. And
so what that was the deal that IOG and New Balance.
Yeah. So this is basically, this came from me working with Charles back in 2017, and at that point, the team wasn't that big, and there was nobody really doing business development except for Charles and me. And Charles had to do Charles stuff, so they needed somebody to do business development. So I said, "Hey, I'll do business development for all of Cardano." And so whenever we go to conferences, Charles would do a speech or a keynote, and then people would start asking him questions. Then he'd say, like, talk to Dan, he's over there. There's actually like tape of him doing this, back in Consensus 2017 and whatever. It's really funny. Dan is over there. Talk to him if you got any business for me or whatever. And so I would also get emails forwarded from Charles to me that had to do with anything with business. And so one late night, I get an email from a guy that is a fan of the ecosystem, just kind of exploring it a little bit. And he just kind of says, you know what, I don't even know if you guys are going to read this, but I work at New Balance, and we have an issue with secondary market counterfeit products
Mm.
for luxury brands, for luxury, well, not for luxury brands, for luxury items. And so I said, New Balance, this is pretty interesting. Okay, so let's talk to these guys. So I set up a call, and of course he's in the U.S., I'm in Japan, and it was like at obscene times for me. It was like 2 a.m. for me. I would take these calls, and then I started talking to this guy, and so he turned out to be the head of security, or basically whatever department deals with counterfeiting and that kind of stuff, right? He was the head of that part of New Balance. And so one thing led to another, and we started talking about potentially creating a solution for New Balance to utilize in their luxury sneaker lines in order to authenticate these luxury sneakers, because these luxury sneakers were, they go for a lot of money. They go for sometimes thousands of dollars, and they go up in price because they're collector's items. So they need to have a way to authenticate them. And there's actually there's a multi-billion-dollar counterfeiting industry out there for these items that would have basically it was a whole industry. So what they would do, that he would told me that one of the things that they were having a problem with is they would put out a luxury sneaker line, and then say somewhere in China or whatever, right? Somebody would make a website that would completely copy the official New Balance website, buy an address that's super close to New Balance. It's like New Balance or something like that, right? Or Now Balance, or just really, really close, so people couldn't really tell the difference if they weren't really looking at it. And what they would do is they would copy and paste the website, and then they would say that these are available at 20% less, not 50% less, because 50% less people will get suspicious. But
Yeah.
10, 20%, like, oh, okay, 10%, I can see them doing a 10 to 20% sale. And so they would go to these websites, and of course they'd get ripped off, because they would either never get anything, or if they would get it, would be a knockoff. And so New Balance eventually started working with us, and we created, I think it was called Real Chain or something like that. It was a while back. It was back in 2018.
It wasn't called real world asset tokenization, right? Back then.
Yeah,
It wasn't.
and yeah, back
But it was
then,
the first one. It was
yeah,
the first one on Cardano, I think, right?
yeah, this was the first one on Cardano, and RWA tokenization on Cardano. And so we tokenized all of these sneakers, the entire line of sneakers. And so that's why I have these sneakers, because it's a memento from a deal that I put together that basically was the first deal on Cardano that tokenized real world assets, and then eventually created the Italascan suite, which the Italascan was born out of this deal. So yeah, I mean, real world assets were always been kind of a very cool and interesting thing for me, because it's real, right? It makes a difference. You're not just screwing around. You're not just making, you're not printing money, or you're not trading JPEGs or whatever. It's real. It makes a difference, and it makes a difference to the people that are collecting these sneakers behind me. So that's why our RWAs really spoke to me when I started thinking about Zengate. And what does Zengate do? About a couple of years ago, when I started thinking about Zengate, about Palmyra. And going back to what you were saying, Chef, there was this buzz, there was this kind of energy back in 2017, 2016. Like, everybody was really excited, because like we knew we were on the brink of something big. We knew that we were going to do something. I knew we were going to change the world. It's not just another, Pokemon Go. it's something, it's something that's got so many possibilities. And now it's 2024. And while did make some advances, we did make some advances, right? We got better systems, we got more security, we got more interoperability, we got more tooling. What's our killer app? What's our killer DApp? How did we make the world a better place? How do we make it different? And what I kept hearing is, oh well, it's hard. We didn't realize it was that hard. Well, what did you think it was going to be? Well, you just think it's going to be like, yeah, banks will be like, oh yeah, guys, yeah, sorry, we screwed up. Here you go. Here's all those people that you want to bank. We'll just leave. We'll just leave quietly. What do you think? The counterfeiter. What do you think is gonna be easy to go into an underserved, developing, under digitized jurisdiction and say, hey guys, here's all of these tools. Let's digitize you. Let's bring you. Let's leapfrog you into the 21st century. And go say, oh yeah, sure. Let me just kind of like wave a magic wand and make the entire country do this thing.
Yeah. Now, I have this is a question that quite a few people have in their mind, as in general in community, right? I'm the first one to say that I'm the biggest community fanboy here. Watching Dan going with Charles in all those countries, right? You visited Mongolia, Georgia. The list is huge. Ethiopia. You went in so many different places, right? So you're actually one of the very few people that have, few people, in this group anyway, that have seen it all, have talked to many different people from many different, classes, if you will, right? What is the feeling right now that you have going through this journey with IoG? We see how the tech is right now. We see that there's no killer dApps, even though there are. We have the World Mobile, we have the Book.io, we have Iagon. We do have some killer apps, right? But are these the killer apps that will bring the mainstream, right? Or what do we need for that? And I'm not saying that Palmyra is the answer here, but this is a broader conversation, because I think we should all have that. When we talk about Cardano right now, we all take pride of the tech, we all take pride of the community, we all take pride of the decentralization, and all that is great. But is it enough by itself? That's the question, I think.
Yeah, I think, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that as an industry, we have to come to terms that the mainstream is not going to be excited about the same things that we're excited about. The mainstream, what they are going to be excited about is utility. It's going to be all about utility. That's what's going to bring the mainstream, and that's what we're going to talk to our guests about. We're going to talk to them about the utility of Web3, the utility of real-world asset tokenization. I get this quite a bit in the Cardano ecosystem when they say that, we go to somebody and, we say we're on Cardano and then the door shuts. Or, even in the Ergo ecosystem, always they say, oh, we say we're on Ergo and they say we're too small and whatever. Look, we have gone to already several governments with the solutions that we have built for Palmyra on Cardano and on Ergo. Well, on Ergo and soon on Cardano. We have not been asked even once, which blockchain we're using. Not even once. And the reason being is because we intentionally abstracted the technology. And that is what we have to do as an industry. We have to realize that a lot of the mainstream is not going to care about the technology. We're going to have to abstract the technology. We're going to have to put utility first, and we're going to have to show them that this is a better way of doing business. That tokenization and traceability is a better way of doing business, because you can trustlessly prove processes that have been, or protocols that have been abided by. You can you can verify credentials, you can verify certifications, you can verify receipts, again, trustlessly. It's not just because of the security aspect or because of the, the decentralization movement is so cool. It's because trustless takes less time.
Mhm.
That's literally one of the main things that the mainstream is going to care about. That they don't have to call 3 different people or 4 different agencies or get verifications, or they don't have to trust me, bro. It's trustless, right? So if it's on chain, code is law. You just check it against the blockchain, and you're good to go. It literally cuts costs. It cuts overhead. The same with decentralization. You don't go and you don't go and tell them that, hey, decentralize. That's the way, and we need to decentralize everything. Well, first of all, you don't have to decentralize everything. Like, not everything needs to be decentralized. There's some things that just make more sense centralized, because really decentralization is too resource intensive and bulky for it. But with that, there's the other side of the coin. There is the side that says, hey, if you use a decentralized system, like, for example, if you go to a government and you say, I have a credentials solution for you, a on-chain credentials solution for you, and for you to utilize this solution, you don't need to build out some crazy infrastructure that's going to cost you tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars. Why? Because you can put it on this decentralized network, and all you got to do is maybe run a node or maybe 2 or something, right? Because it's decentralized, it's already there, it's already available, the infrastructure is already available. So that's a big value add. That's a big thing for a business, or for a government, or for anybody who's basically, again, looking to leapfrog and doesn't have the money that the big boys, the big governments would have to put into this. And so again, that's why it's important to lead with utility.
One of the questions, it's not, well, I wouldn't say questions, but one of the things that we hear all the time, especially nowadays, is it's all having to do around the technology, right? So everyone, especially the last few years, right, especially with crypto and whatnot, everyone's talking about technology, and, oh, I built this, oh, I built that. And again, everything is great, but is technology by itself, right? Is technology by itself enough? Because when we, especially in the past few months, we hear about real world asset tokenization, and, oh, this project did this, oh, this project announced that. And that's not just Cardano or Ergocentric, that's in general, right? We hear a lot about real world asset tokenization nowadays. Is tech enough for real world asset tokenization? And if not, what is it that is needed to be there for real world asset tokenization to actually have a success, to actually bring the solutions, right? To actually be used by the people?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Real world asset tokenization, why it excites me is because you can't hide away from the real world aspect of it. You have to go out there, and you have to have boots on the ground to be able to tokenize an asset. And again, this is why we have boots on the ground in Sri Lanka, because you just can't do it, because a lot of these solutions require a legacy approach as well. Just regular business development. You have to create relationships. You can't just say, trust me, bro, and send them a link, or never meet them. Or you have to meet them. These are people, these are commodities producers, these are essentials producers. And it's also a cultural thing as well. A lot of these people are about in-person interaction, and that is how you create these types of businesses, is through in-person interaction. So that is why you have to be able to, you have to have that you have to build that muscle as well. You have to train that muscle of interacting with the real world to be able to understand how real world asset tokenization can better the real world. How does it better this industry? And again, this is what our guests are going to tell us. We bring you technology. This is what a technology does. How do you think it will better your industry? How does tokenization better commodities? What does it really do? We have an expert that we're going to be bringing on on one of the future episodes here, and we will ask him. We'll say, why do you think that this is important? And this person is very passionate about what we're doing with tokenization. And so that perspective was really important. And this person comes from the traditional field, right? They come from the traditional commodities trading field, and they've been in it for 40 years almost. So yeah, it is, the combination is so important for success, and you can't really escape it. You just can't. You have to do it, or else you're going to create a tone deaf solution. It's not gonna be a solution because it's gonna be tone deaf.
Exactly. And one of the points that we've been discussing over the past few months especially was around the minimum viable ecosystem, right? This is so important to have in place, because even if you have the best tech in the world, right, it can give you all the solutions that you might need. If you don't have the people in place and the processes in place, the minimum viable ecosystem, it's not going to work. So, especially when we talk about mainstream, about Web3 adoption, right? It's not just about the tech anymore. It's about actually building, still the Web2 business development part. It's still here. The people are still around. You will still have to have this communication, this one-to-one conversations, and this, when you shake hands, for example, things are real, right? People still need to have that. And there's a lot of people that sometimes don't really understand that it's not just the tech anymore. We have to now get to the point that, how do we bring it to the people? How do we introduce it, right? And again, why should they care? So one of the questions that we had, I think, from Discord, it was, why commodities on chain? And I think this is a very big topic to discuss, and maybe we're gonna need more time on the next on another episode.
Absolutely. And and
Um,
and,
be-
and more guests that actually are experts in the field.
but do you mind, just from all your experience, all the conversations that you had, you know, why did you choose Palmyra? Why Palmyra was the one? Why commodities on chain? And later on a follow, whenever you're done, we're going to talk about the data as well.
So why Palmyra? Why that type of user experience? I'll tell you why. Well, first of all, the question is why tokenize with NFTs, and I'll tell you why as well. And this is a story that I've told a couple of times, and I'll tell it again on this podcast. So last bull run, what was it, 2021? I was looking at OpenSea because last bull run was all about NFTs, and I owned a few NFTs, and I did pretty okay with those. And I was also an advisor for a company that specialized in NFTs, which is now called Forge with a J. And So I look at OpenSea and I see these crazy prices that people pay, these crazy volumes, sometimes in the millions per asset. And there's so much trading volume there, and there's so much engagement there. And I've always felt that the NFT just has been underutilized. We took literally one functionality and we just ran with it because that was the thing that everybody was kind of excited about. There was digital collectibles, and that's fine. But there's just so much more uh, to be excited about. I mean, it's such a powerful tool, and so I started thinking, you know what? Why can't this be something real? Because really what it's about is the actual experience, is the user experience that people are into. They don't really care about what, I mean, yeah, they like the art, right? Which is the product in a way, that's attached to it. But other than that, I mean, it's just bits of data. I mean, there literally are just bits of data. They're just trading bits of data. That's what they're doing. They're trading just unique bits of data back and forth and paying money for it, and it's a real money. Why can't this be commodities? Why can't this be, and I thought of commodities because I'm thinking, well, it's trading, right? And it's not just, I mean, stocks, no. Commodities, on the other hand, now that could work. And I'll tell you why. Because commodities is something that you can hold in your hand, something that can be beautifully shown, right? Because it's also about aesthetics, it's also about presentation. And it just makes sense to me. So why can't we kind of replicate a similar experience, almost this degen experience of OpenSea, but we trade commodities? Commodity trading is huge. And then we started thinking about it more and more and more. It's like, okay, well, yeah, but regular commodities, people are just going to be like, okay, gold, silver, great. Sure, my dad does that. My dad has gold. I don't care about gold. I care about monkey JPEGs. So why would those guys want to trade that? And I'm thinking, you know what? There's so many more commodities that are underserved. But now with this technology that you can actually use to tokenize, so all it takes is just a little bit of of tweaking, and you can create this protocol that would actually save data related to a commodity lot. And then on top of that, you can also then iterate through, say, traceability data. And then you can assign certificates to it. And you can assign warehouse receipts to it. You can assign all these different things to it that really makes it into this awesome, like, value chest that moves along with the commodity. And so it just started making sense to me. Underserved commodities, because it's a huge $1 trillion field that is that is under digitized, that is underserved by technology, that is underserved by access, and emerging economies for the same reason, because I'm passionate about emerging economies, because I'm passionate about working in those regions, because that's where you make the most impact, it's where you make the most change. And that's where Palmyra was born. It was born out of thinking like that, because how we can combine the two worlds, how can we use this technology that has obviously got legs because it's being utilized in a different way. How do we utilize it in this way, and then also make sure that we're utilizing this particular technology to its fullest extent? And that is also the Winter Protocol, the tokenization traceability protocol that powers Palmyra, that's currently running on Ergo.
Dan, somebody would say that, again, why commodities, man? Couldn't you just go for something else? Couldn't you go for anything? You come up with a device and you tokenize it and you sell it, or why commodity specifically? And how does that tie in with your IoT journey? Was that the reason? Was that because you went and saw, you got the experience from the ground? And the question that I like to ask you is, how are things in Sri Lanka, and you know what I mean, and how and why Sri Lanka? And we've been talking about tea and on Palmyra, and this is our first commodity. Like, what was the whole thought process behind this? Because I think it's quite fascinating and good to explain it to our community and audience.
So why commodities? Commodities because to me, it just speaks it's real, right? And it's real in a way where, okay, so yes, of course, it can be a luxury good, right? And that's also real. But to me, a commodity already has all these different needs for traceability, for unique identification, for authentication, for certification. That basically can be created with this melded solution that we provide with this technology. It just fits, right? It fits. I mean, like, why do you buy, a jacket sometimes? It just fits.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, there's 10 other jackets you can try, but that one just fits the right way. And that's why it was commodities for myself, because it just fit. It fit all these different things that I wanted to accomplish with the technology. It just made sense. It was very straightforward to me in my mind, in my head. And yet, working with IOG, it really did. It really did kind of put me in a space where I was excited about agricultural and soft commodities and mine commodities and things that are basically being produced, because a lot of these jurisdictions that I dealt with, Georgia, we dealt with Africa, we dealt with Mongolia. A lot of these are agricultural jurisdictions. Agriculture is really big over there, and so that's their lifeblood. Agriculture and commodity production is their lifeblood. And I felt like that's a huge market. I know that market. At least I know a good deal about that market. And it just all just made sense to me. That's the market that we're going to enter. And of course, I don't know everything about that market, but I know enough to understand where the value is and where the value can be mined. And I mean, that's why commodities, specifically Sri Lanka, is actually doing great. So aside from onboarding several really, top-notch specialty and artisan tea producers, we're also currently working to onboard commodity tea and commodity tea producers as well, that we signed the MOU with a year ago. We're also looking to roll out fractional freight forwarding and logistics solutions. We're also looking to roll out trade financing that is powered by DeFi. And all of these things will be rolled out in Sri Lanka. We have we actually, so the last trip that we took over there was for the Catalyst mass onboarding of tea producers. So basically, a blueprint for mass onboarding of technologies, of Cardano technologies, which we are pretty much done with right now. And this is actually something that I covered in a different video that'll be coming out in a few days, I believe. But while we were there, we also opened a physical office. We actually have an office on the ground. We have employees on the ground in Sri Lanka, in Colombo. We have an address, and they are working with the commodity producers there full time. We're onboarding cinnamon. We're also going to be onboarding rubber, which is a big product in Sri Lanka. Potentially coconut products as well. So there's a lot to do in Sri Lanka, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and we haven't even started, and I will leave it to that.
Yeah.
I saw some nice comments. I wasn't actually expecting to see any comments on this first episode. We haven't really marketed it or anything like that. It was more of a testing that we had. Victor, can you bring everything? Can you bring them up again? I just wanted to make sure that we give the shout out to the people. You're two of the few people in this freaking space who understand business and have empathy for the average person. You know how to approach them, what to say, what they need, and care for. Congrats. That comes from Varavas, and he's one of the Greek Greek community members have been big supporters, and we just wanted to thank you for your kind words. And
Thank you.
Kumar, I'm excited about what Zengate is working on. Thank you, Kumar.
Thank you.
Oh, there you go. Here it is. I just wanted to hear what Dan had to say about other RWA projects in the Cardano space that are in the making, especially Twin and Finest. These are only into metals for now, but just wanting to hear.
Yeah, so RWA tokenization, you got to understand, it's not just like a one type of thing. It's actually a pretty wide field. It's a pretty wide spectrum of different use cases. And so what we do is different from what Twin does, and is different from what Finance does, and it is different from what many other projects do. Not because we figured it out better than them, but just because there's just so much space to operate. There's so many things that can be done with RWAs that we can all be doing our own unique thing and still never cover, the entire thing. It's literally that big, and this is why I'm so excited about it. It's literally that huge. Like for example, Twin is working with gold, and gold tokenization is a huge industry. It's huge. There is a lot to do. There's a lot to be. There's a lot of utility there in tokenizing gold and tokenizing gold bullion, and in how you can trade it more easily. And again, the technology makes it does some of the same things that the technology does for us. It makes things easier. It makes things a lot more portable. But the application is different. They got their own market. They got their own audience. It's a huge field, right? It's a huge commodities trading community that does gold, and they have their relationships with various institutions. And yeah, I wish them amazing success. I think it's going to be a very successful project. Just not just because they are using this technology, but because they are making those real world business inroads, right? They're out there doing business. They're not just saying, okay, here's the tech, use it, which is what this industry kind of does a lot. We make all this tech and we say, okay, you know, here you go, guys. Why don't you use this? We have created this for you. Like, yeah, but why? Like, I don't, how dare you ask these questions? Of course you should know why.
I
Uh,
think I think something else that I wanted to touch on super quick. Victor, can you go on the back on the question on the previous question? Um, around Twin is, for example, it's quite a few. It's quite different field, like Dan said, right? What Twin, for example, with the gold, they're trying to do is they give you easier access for something like that, for a commodity like that, such as gold or other precious metals. What the solutions that we're trying to do, and to Dan's point, it's different fields, because we're trying to give tools to people that are on underserved communities. So it's a totally different thing. It's going to make their livelihoods better. It's going to give them direct access to global market access or to other financial tools. So it's a little bit different. It's still on the RWA spectrum, but it's quite a different application, if you will. So I just wanted to make that clear. And for Finest, and that's a great question. I know the answer because I was reading about it yesterday.
mhm.
I just did a little bit of research. Finest is actually a launchpad, so they will be providing the technology, if you will, and obviously more technical help in that sense. But they're a launchpad, so projects or people or producers that have their own commodities could go to them so they can tokenize their stuff. So again, it's different level, different fields on the same big RWA spectrum.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. The spectrum is huge. And each one of us has their unique value propositions and value add to the space. And I that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I don't think we have to fight for crumbs here. There's so much to do that all of us can be making something huge and not never cross streams. Like really just never cross streams.
And we're talking with everyone, right? Like, let's just make that clear as well. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
we
Absolutely.
talk with everyone. We know what everyone is doing. We're in good terms with everyone,
That,
and we
that's
always.
also the thing about business. It's about business, not about tribalism. We don't get tribal. We're all about business. We're all If there is business to be done, we will talk to the project. We will do the business if it makes sense, if the synergies make sense. That's what it's all. There isn't emotion attached to it. It's all just business.
I will go to the next question. I can't believe that we have questions. That's amazing, guys. Thank you
We
so
do.
much.
We do. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to the very first episode. It was going to be the most amazing podcast about RWAs and in
The Mitch.
the entire space.
Okay, Vision Lee, is there the more roadmap detail of Palm? So if you go to palmtoken.net, you will be able to find the roadmap over there. Um, just so because we don't have it right in front of us, even though as the episodes start, progressing and the time goes by, we're gonna start being having a way better production. So we're actually gonna be able. Victor is gonna be the maestro behind the buttons and cameras and mics, and he's gonna be putting actually all that stuff on screen. But if you go on palmtoken.net, you will see, you scroll like maybe like just a little bit, you will see the roadmap. And right now I'm just going to go over it super quick. We've started the ISPO back in December, and it's going to be running for about 6 months or so. It all depends on the on the participation and whatnot, but we're actively monitoring how the ISPO is going, and if we have to make some changes, we will, just to make it more attractive for people, but at the same time keep it fair. And the reason why we started with the ISPO was because there was no KYC that was needed, and right away that made it accessible and available for participation for everyone, regardless of if they're in the States, Canada, or any other um, parts of the world that might have some legislation anyway, red flags and whatnot. So we started with the ISPO, and actually, in we're gonna be making some announcements. I will leave it there, about the IDO that is coming. It's around the corner. The IDO is coming, but let's just make it a little bit more clear for everyone. The IDO part will do have KYC. So you will have to KYC in order to participate on the IDO, and there's going to be quite a few countries, such as United States, I think Canada, China, like these classic, the usual suspects, countries of the list that you cannot participate in this kind of events, and then right after the IDO, we're going to have the TGE event. TGE is a token generation event, and that means that the Palm token is going to start coming into circulation. This is actually a very exciting part of the roadmap, as you'll understand. It's very big for us, because
Yeah.
it's a big bet that we've put with ourselves, and that bet is that there's a timeline, and we have to make sure, and we've already made sure, but we have to make sure that we have transactions happening on Palmyra. We'll have people that are selling their goods. We have people that are buying these goods. And as soon as there's transactions on the platform, there is a reason for the token to be there. Utility from day one. So these are the goals. These are the timelines that we put to ourselves, and we're hoping that, well, we're not hoping, we're hitting every single thing.
Yeah.
So lots of announcements that are coming around the IDO. And how is that going to go? Right now, if you would like to participate in the Palm economy, all you got to do is take on Palm 1 or Palm 2 pools, and you can participate like that. Keep in mind, there's no rewards for you to claim right now from the ISPO. After the TG happens, you'll be able to start claiming them. So keep that in mind. There's going to be a lot of information coming out, though, as the days and the weeks go by. So stay tuned.
Let's take the last question from S. Kumar before we sign off. So, is Palm going to be multi-chain in the future? I know Erg and Ada for sure. Yes, yes, it will be. This is one of the main reasons why we wanted to make sure that Rosen has the best chance to succeed, is because of this interoperability and this multi-chain ability that will be offered by Rosen. So yes, we want it on the EVM, in the EVM ecosystem. We want it on Binance, Smart Chain, or anywhere else Rosen connects and Rosen can send the Palm token. We will be having Palm token go there. So yes, yes, we're definitely doing multi-chain, um, and we're really excited about that.
And we might make an announcement. So I'll make that announcement here now because we definitely not have too many viewers or listeners. So I'll
Right,
throw the
right.
I'll throw the alpha now. So whoever got to see this,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so for the next episode, those of you that are watching, you can tell the other people, "Hey, they throw out alpha on this thing. You better come and check it out next time."
so yeah, so Palm will be supported by Rosenbridge. So as soon as uh, Palm token, the first day that Palm token goes live on Cardano and Ergo, there, it's going to be utilizing Rosen. Well, on Cardano. So as soon as as soon as it's out with the use of Rosen, you'll be able to take it to the Ergo ecosystem or
Yes.
blockchain actually right away.
Yes. Rosen will officially be supporting Palm and RS Palm on the Ergo blockchain. So you heard it here. You heard it here first, guys. RS Palm on Ergo and Palm on Cardano.
And yeah,
Thanks to Rosen.
that announcement will be going out in 48 hours from now. So that's
Yeah.
definitely an alpha.
Yeah. So this is just going to be between us and the
and
the
you, and
and
you.
you guys. Yeah, yeah, and everybody who's watching right now.
Okay, cool. I think
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, this was really good. It was really good, and it is just us. It's just us this time. I mean, next time we're actually gonna have a guest. We're gonna have another person on that. Well, we're gonna have one of these mainstream experts that I've been talking about, I guess. And yeah, so really, thank you very much for everybody who tuned in. We're flattered that you guys came to watch the first episode. Really looking forward to the next one. Is going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome to have you back. And Theo, you got anything else to say before we sign off?
yeah, I just wanted to give a big shout out to VHL Victor, the person behind the production of this live stream and all the amazing clips that are going to be happening and coming out later. Just wanted to thank everyone for joining. We're very excited about this. We really wanted to make sure that we're going to start having this communication, this connection with everyone, doing live streams every week, talking about all the latest, talking about the mainstream and how Web3 adoption could happen. What are the ways? There's definitely not just one. There's definitely not just what we do. We do our small part as Zengate with Palmyra, and we're pretty sure that there's a lot more people out there on the Cardano Ergo ecosystem or any other ecosystem out there that are do try to find these kind of solutions. And we're gonna be here every Tuesday from now on. This is a commitment that we
Yep.
wanted to make. And keep in mind, yes, we didn't have crazy participation and whatnot. Obviously, we did go quite under the radar on this one. Um, but we're going to be waiting for your comments. We're going to be waiting for your questions. We do want to have that connection with you on a weekly basis at least. And it's not just a podcast so that it's going to be Palmyra focused, is Web3 adoption and mainstream focused. We are going to be touching on Palmyra things, but this is not definitely going to be something that it's about
This is
Palmyra.
not the Palmyra show. This is the RWA mainstream adoption of RWA technology and blockchain technology show.
So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Please, please, please leave your comments, subscribe on this channel, but more importantly, leave your comments. What was that you liked on this show? What it is that you want to see on the next episodes, and send us, advice or feedback of who would you like to see
Please,
on
please.
on the show. Is it Charles? Is it Mickey
We'll get
from
Charles on
World
here.
Mobile?
Yeah, that's yeah. I'll get him on here.
Yeah, we should. All right, until next week, we're going to see you all in about a week or so. Until then, we wish you all a great rest of your week, and stay in touch.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Have a good one.